Bad Mormons!
I'm Mandy.
And I'm Charlotte.
And we're your hosts of this magnificent Monday podcast. What day is it? I'm drunk.
You know what? The Baileys is kicking in.
I put whiskey in my coffee along with my Baileys.
I'm a good Mormon, so I don't drink coffee.
You're on the wrong podcast.
I just put Baileys and vodka over ice instead. No coffee.
And you turned around and came back, and now we're here to entertain you today with our lovely, glorious voices. How y'all doing out there?
Living the dream, I'm guessing.
We missed you last week.
We want to just jump right into repentance, or?
Well, let's cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers with our Baileys. Cheers to our patrons.
Hey, cheers, patrons. You guys are rad. Thank you for always prepping us up, telling us we're rad, making us want to keep doing this. You guys are my favorite.
I keep saying we have something for you, and we're going to get to it shortly, but we got very drunk all week last week, and we didn't do what we were supposed to do, so I promise you it's going to happen this week. We're sending something out in the mail. I'm going to reach out to you.
We had every intention of sending it so that it could come from Sin City. But then we just kept drinking.
If I don't have your address, I'm going to reach out to you and ask you for it because, you know,
you make us strike. Send it to us.
You make us feel special. We want to make you feel special.
Hell yes.
So cheers to you. Let's get into what we're really here for, to repent for our behavior.
I'm so sorry. Listen, we actually almost recorded, but then I passed out.
We were so close. We had the whole thing set up. It was ready to roll. Granted, it was 11 p.m. on a Sunday night, but we were going to hammer it out.
I also want to point out that you're also welcome that I passed out, because who knows what that shit show would have sounded like. We had been drinking all day. We had gone to Meow Wolf's Omega Mart, which I think we'll talk about later. But anyways, it was a day of heavy drinking, so...
It wouldn't be the first time we've done that to you, and it probably won't be the last, but it just didn't work out last week.
I had my reasons, and I just went night-night. So I apologize. I repent.
And do you want to also repent for that... Let's see, softball-sized hematoma on the back of your leg? Or should we save that for later?
That's part of my story.
I'm sorry. Spoiler alert. Some shit went down.
Somebody drank this weekend. It was me.
All right. Well,
hey,
for
Mormon
me...
Corner, I've actually got some things.
What about me? What about my repenting?
I thought we were both repenting for being bad.
Hey, I had the podcast set up. I was ready to go. I just couldn't get you off the couch. You're like, I'll be right there. And then you snuck out and went to bed.
Listen, actually, that's not how it happened. We were drinking in the kitchen. We had just had a lovely dinner. We had drank a shit ton of wine. And somebody walked through our Airbnb backyard that freaked everybody out for about a second, right?
True.
So whereas everybody went out back to make sure that he just kept walking, I have seen one too many horror movies and decided to go check the entire house to make sure somebody, he wasn't a distraction while somebody else got in, right? The house was clear. And then I thought, if you just lay down for about 5 minutes, it'll be fine. Oh, and you had said, are we not recording a podcast? And in my very drunk mind, I thought to myself, what's the word they say? Self-fulfilling destiny, or it's not, you know what I mean? Like self-prophecy. Self-fulfilling prophecy. I'm just going to lay down for 5 minutes.
You actually went to the couch first. I picked you up off the couch and was like, come on, it's time to go. And then you're like, okay, I'm coming. And then you got up and just went to the other way to the room.
That's not the way my brain remembers
it. That's what happened. You know what I will repent for, too? We had the whole crew in Vegas that night for the podcast. We had Courtney and Joe. We had Donnie and Mike. And Donnie was really excited to be on the podcast.
You should have just recorded without me.
Well, that's what I was getting at. We were going to do Family Home Evening with Bad Mormon.
Okay.
And apologize for you. But
I feel like that would be 100% totally acceptable.
So next time, now we've made the pact on air for the whole internet to witness. You may one day get a Bad Mormon podcast with special guests.
Yeah, I don't think I'd never do it alone, but if you have that quality of people, and one of us isn't here, you fucking go for it.
Yeah. Luckily, Vegas is only like a 4-hour drive from us, so.
That's fact. And we are going to see Courtney next month, so.
Fact. So anyway, yeah, I repent to Donnie specifically for...
I'm so sorry.
For Charlotte ruining his dreams of being on the podcast. And we'll make it happen for you, buddy.
I blame Omega Mart because, well, I guess it's not their fault I decided to fucking chug White Claws.
Sure isn't. Mormon Corner.
So, for Mormon Corner, I didn't realize they had a whole remedy section back here on the world famous Mormon Trail cookbook.
Sent to us by one of our listeners who we adore so much.
Right.
You know who you are.
So I was kind of going through it and I was like, some of this shit is batshit crazy and some of it really reminded me of Mother. So I thought that I would read a few for you. So should you have these things, here are the remedies. Because me and Mandy, we both have worked at natural grocers, right? Homeopathic remedies when you can do it. You know, antibiotics are a great thing, but, you know, I hate going to doctors. So if I can get rid of it myself, I will. That being said, so a nosebleed.
Oh, God.
Take a small piece of lead.
What?
Bore a hole in it. Put a string around the hole and tie it around your neck. Your nose won't bleed again.
What?
Yeah, that's what it says.
Thing?
Or you can place a penny, or it says a coin, directly under your nose between the upper lip and the gum and press tightly.
And that's supposed to stop a nosebleed?
Yep. Hang a pair of pot hooks around your neck.
Question.
Yep. I mean, I don't have answers. That's all it says.
The hand is raised. What's a pot hook?
I'm guessing the hook that you hang a pot from, but it doesn't make sense why.
Why would you have that on the Mormon Trail?
Well, because you put it in the covered wagon.
Oh, okay.
You gotta hang your pots from somewhere.
So you hang the pot hooks around your neck and it stops your nose from bleeding?
That's what it says. I wasn't going to read pneumonia, but...
Now you have to.
Now I have to. So to bring down the fever, put some quinine and hog lard on a cloth and put it on your chest. Give the person 2 teaspoons of oil, this is where it got me, rendered from a skunk.
Oh, good Lord.
Make an onion poultice? How do you say this?
Poultice.
Poultice, what is that?
It's just like a compress with herbs and shit in it. Would you
smash it or just be an onion in a...
Yeah, like in a rag. Okay. I guess a poultice technically is a piece of flannel.
Okay. To make the fever break. Well, anyways.
Wait, hold on. Skunk oil and an onion in...
But that's all, they're 3 separate things. So one is you put the quinine and the hot lard, you rub it on the chest. Second, you give the person 2 teaspoons of oil rendered from a skunk. Now, is that off of the hair of the skunk? Is it from the anus? Is it an anal gland oil? What are we talking about here? Because I don't know.
I need specifics.
So if anybody here knows, I would love to hear about it.
If anyone's alive from the time of the Mormon Trail.
We should call Mother.
We should.
And ask her, Mother, how do you get oil rendered from a skunk? And then 3, you make an onion poultice. Whatever. To make the fever break. Okay. So there was that one. Again, that wasn't
wow.
That wasn't
Just
my
hold
first
on. I need to process that.
I was going to jump right over to an earache. And I wanted to start off by telling the story about the time I had an earache and what Mother used to do for me.
Save that for story time.
You know, it's not worth a full... Maybe... No, I don't think it's worth a full story.
Okay, you go. It's your time. I'll stop.
Okay, listen. So, when I was, younger, I'd get ear infections like children would. And Mom nailed it every time. I'll give her that. She'd put essence of oil, garlic oil, underneath the sink to warm it. You know, so it was in a glass bottle. So she'd put it under the sink, warm the bottle up. And so it was not too hot, but it was nice and warm. And she just put it in my ear and put a hot washcloth over it. And it would get rid of that ear infection every time. It was great. Well, about the time I was about 20-ish, I got this ear infection. It would not stop. There was literal blood coming out of my ear. And again, me, who refuses to go to doctors, I'm like, but I don't want to go. And at this point, I wasn't living with Mom anymore. I was living with my friend's parents, because she was going to lose the house soon. And so they're like, Charlotte, you need to go to a doctor. And I'm like, listen, I'm going to go see my mom. We're going to get rid of it. And so we tried doing the garlic oil thing, and it probably would have worked, but I kept going swimming and stupid shit like that, so it just kept getting worse and worse. And so, again, once I started seeing blood, I was like, okay, this is bad. So I go to Mom's, and I'm like, Mom, my ear, I don't want to go to the doctor. She's like, well, why don't we put some Neosporin on it? And I'm like, oh, it's a solid. You can't put Neosporin inside my ear. She's like, sure you can. Look, when you heat it up, it turns into a liquid. I'm like, great idea. So we heat it up. It goes into a liquid. We put it in my ear, and sure, oh God, it felt, this has been almost 20 years, and I can still remember how good that felt, because my ear was so sore, and it was in so much pain. And it was just this warm, it was like a hug. It was like a nice warm hug on your ear. So it felt so good. And then the next day, sure enough, it was like itching, because like it was healing, and I was just like, oh my God, it's feeling so, like, immediately was feeling so much better. And also I couldn't hear out of that ear because of the infection, right? And so like maybe like 4 or 5 days later, my friend's mom, I guess I don't want to say their names just in case, but like she's like, so Charlotte, did you go to the doctor for your ear yet? Like, I'm worried about you. And I was like, I don't know. I went to my mom, totally fixed it. She's like, what'd you do? And I was like, well, I put your, we put Neosporin in my ears. How did you do that? And I was like, well, heat it up. It turns into a liquid. And I was like, but I still can't hear. I mean, it feels great. Totally 100% healed. But I still can't hear out of it. She's like, what do you think happens when it cooled back down? It solidified again, you idiot. I'm just like, oh shit, how am I going to get this out of my ear? Long story short, she had some eardrops for like, you have too much earwax in there, broke it up, and like, it's got one of those little blue, like, snot sucker things,
yeah,
right?
suction.
Yeah, so you put that full of hot, warm water, put it in the ear, and just chunks of shit was coming out of my ear. This is probably, I should say, warning. This is going to be graphic, gross descriptions. So and it was like, again, the infection, you could see all this grossness just coming out of my ear. Like, it wasn't gooey or anything, because it was all like in a wax almost, right? But it was just chunks of shit were going into the sink, and I'm like, oh, that is so gross. But all of a sudden I could feel the pressure releasing from my ear. And then I'm like, you know what, I think I got the majority of it out. I wasn't seeing chunks anymore, but I was like, I could still feel something was a little like off. And so I just like, I'm just gonna do it one more time. And I just got this big one, and I just happened to get it in just the right spot, and it was like a whole cylinder of wax came out. It was so gross. Anyway, so that's my ear story from Mother. But this rendition says to dissolve a table of salt.
A tablespoon.
Nope, it just says table. Oh, dissolve table salt in lukewarm water and pour into the ear. This dissolves the wax, which is causing the pain. Put either wet ashes wrapped in a cloth or hot ashes in a sack and put on the ear and hold there. Roast cabbage stalks and squeeze the juice into the ear. Warm a spoonful of urine and put a few drops in the ear. 5. Hold your head close to a hot lamp. 6. Put a few ashes of an old rag, dampen it with hot water, and sleep with your head on it. Thank you, Mormon Trail Cookbook. You made my mom sound sane.
How did we miss all this whole time?
I don't know, but this is a treasure trove that keeps on giving. And there are so much more, but I feel we will save it for the next time. I have the puncture wound here, but I'm going to save that for later.
That was really good, Charlotte.
Thank you. I put a little bit of effort in today.
Oh, Lord have mercy. Okay.
Cool shit.
Cool shit. Let's talk about cool shit this day on the 115th episode of Family Home Evening with Bad Mormons. Okay, I want to start with, I got something to start with, if that's good with you.
Good for me.
Have you been following Hardee's on Twitter?
No, but I happened to just see a retweet you did.
Everybody go follow Hardee's on Twitter. Hardees, the semi-famous fast food restaurant, of which I used to be a former employee. Or, I guess that's a double negative. I am a former employee.
You're going back to Hardee's, huh?
Going back to Hardee's. So,
what kind of food is Hardee's? Is it like a Carl's Jr.?
It's like a Carl's Jr.
Okay.
In fact, I think it's owned by the same company.
I was going to say, I kind of make the two connections. So
yeah, when I was in, actually no, it was out of high school by then. I think it used to had been something else, and then it changed into a Hardee's, and it was right there on the corner of Main and I think 2nd, right by where your old house used to be, where you lived in that dilapidated.
Oh, yeah.
You guys were squatting in that house. No heat.
We told that story, right? Yeah,
we must have. Right by the jail.
Right.
Anyways, I have one specific memory of working there where it was like I had a little mini 6-month flirtation with bad speed drugs. And I was working at Hardee's, and I worked there for
exactly where you worked
for maybe only 6 months. I had actually already moved to Bellingham, and then, some shit went down there, and I had to move back home for a little while. And I
Was it when you went to jail?
No, I hadn't gone to jail yet. I realized pretty quickly why I had left Utah in the first place, and I bounced right back up to Bellingham and landed with Courtney. But so for that little stint that little 6 months when I had moved back home to Utah, I got into some speed drugs, which wasn't good. And then I was working at the fast food restaurant, which also wasn't great.
God, the stereotypicalness of this is wonderful.
Yeah. And it was wintertime, so just imagine like that cold, shitty, slushy, muddy, salty roads everywhere.
Awful.
Just, Utah. Winters in Utah, I should say. And they were making us work on New Year's Eve into New Year's Day because...
Parties.
Whatever.
It's a fast food, yeah.
So I just remember working the drive-thru and, with my coworkers, watching the clock count down to midnight, being like, yay, Happy New Year, doing some drugs. And it was right at that moment when I was like, this is your life. This is not going to happen. Fuck, no, I gotta go. And I called up Courtney and I was like, can I move in with you?
Can I come home?
Anyways, so the reason why you should follow Hardee's is not for my contribution to their company, but they've gotten into this sort of like, basically they're just, what's the word I'm looking for? They're just lighting up their Twitter making fun of Mike Lindell, the My Pillow guy.
Yes, which, God bless me. You know what? I always liked Carl's Jr. Now I like him even more.
So apparently this guy, I've heard of him referred to as a crackhead, but like with a Q.
Right, because he's a recovering crack addict.
Oh.
That's why, yeah.
Is that why?
He tells everybody, he's like, I used to be addicted to crack, and then I invented My Pillow.
Oh, and he got in trouble at Hardee's. Well, that just all starts to track now.
Self-fulfilled prophecy. No.
So anyway, he's like the super MAGA spokesperson for Trump. I don't know why anybody gives a shit about him.
The further you can stick your tongue up Trump's ass, the more he brings you into his circle. So therefore, that's why he's so well known, is because for whatever reason he kissed his ass enough that he pulled him in. It was like, okay, you're one of like my advisor types.
Yeah, but he's not like, it wasn't like his company was that successful.
No, I know, but it doesn't matter whether you're successful. It's how much are you kissing Trump's ass?
Okay, well, anyways, this guy, Mike Lindell, who owns My Pillow, kissed Trump's ass enough that now he's like the super MAGA guy, and he's involved in a lot of that shit that's going down with the subpoenas and the Department of Justice, and there's like a million things that we don't even have time to get into. If you haven't been paying attention, just DM us and we'll fill you in on all the details, or just get on Twitter and type in Michael Lindell and Hardee's.
But you just find our Twitter and find everything we've retweeted.
So he's going through the drive-thru at a Hardee's, getting himself he had mentioned on some, either his channel or some social media or something, how they have these delicious pillowy biscuits. And so he's going through the drive-thru, and the FBI stopped him at the drive-thru. And
what a weird place to do that.
Subpoenaed his phone, and, he was trying to tell them to.
Because he couldn't run.
He was trying to tell the FBI, he's like, I can't control my hearing aids without my phone. And they're like, guess what? Too bad. It's our phone now. And they took it anyway.
Good.
But so ever since then, Hardee's has been trolling the fuck out of the whole situation on Twitter. And it's hilarious. In fact, their top pinned tweet is something to the effect of like, now that you know we exist, you should try our pillowy biscuits. Or something like that. But there's like all kinds of fire memes all over the internet, like FBI eat free, and Asha Rangappa like took a picture of herself holding her phone in front of a Hardee's and posted it on Twitter. Like, it's hilarious. So
awesome.
So Twitter's been producing some fun shit with the Hardee's Mike Lindell saga. It's fun to laugh again.
Yeah, it's good to laugh again.
So that's my contribution to cool shit.
Mine's new, so I haven't thought about it. I stayed up last. So Craig wanted to watch the new Power of the Rings that's on Amazon.
Explain to the people what that is, because I didn't know.
I'm going to. I like Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings is good. Craig loves Lord of the Rings, right? So he's like, let's watch the Power of the Rings, because we were going to watch Ted Lasso, but we decided to wait for you. And so I'm like, okay, we can watch a little Lord of the Rings stuff. And so yeah, Power of the Rings is the prequel to Lord of the Rings. Now, I don't know if these were books, because again, I'm not that kind of nerd. So I don't know if it was just there's so much dialogue and so much history in the Lord of the Rings trilogy books by Tolkien dude. I forget his first.
Tolkien dude, J.R. Tolkien.
Isn't there 3 in there, like J.R.R. or J.L.K. Tolkien? Anyways, that's why I wasn't gonna say it, because I'm like, I can't remember the first 3 digits or letters.
J.R.R. Tolkien, maybe.
It kind of sounds right. But anyways, it doesn't matter.
J.R.R. Tolkien. I looked it up on my phone for you.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're
so
welcome.
it is J, and every nerd of the history just suddenly cried out.
All at once. A million voices suddenly cried out. And then were silenced.
I'm a Star Wars nerd. I'm not a fucking Hobbit nerd. Anyways, but so Craig, we put it on, and it was great. Like, Craig's sitting there pointing out, he's like, because if you watch Lord of the Rings, they're going through all the ruins, right, of all these magical, like, huge cities that have just been destroyed from this war, right? He's like, look, there it is in all its glory before it was destroyed. So it was actually very cool to watch. And then he promptly fell asleep. And I was like, that motherfucker. And I'm like, well, I'm just going to keep watching it. So I stayed up till 3 a.m. last night. And I'm up, because it's a weekly release, right? And I'm up to date on all of them.
Nice.
And I'm like, I want to go to sleep. There's only one more. I'll just stay up one
more.
Well,
that's saying something if it sucked you in that
right?
much. Yeah.
And again, but I like Lord of the Rings, don't get me wrong. I'm just not, I'm not fanatical about it, right? But it was very good, and I recommend it.
It's called Power of the Ring?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Or I think it's rings, multiple ones. Because technically, there were and we haven't gotten to this part in the show yet, spoiler alert, is that there's multiple rings. Like, each kind of power had their ring, right? And then there's one ring to rule them all, right? And that's what Lord of the Rings are.
I know
right?
that.
So this is Power of the Rings.
Okay. Yeah, I was hearing something about the racists being up in arms that there was a black character.
Correct. So I had, I deduced what they were bitching about. It's like, oh, black elves, it's a very Aryan. Elves are majestic and light-skinned with white hair, right?
White and delightsome, perhaps?
Pretty much. I mean, that's essentially exactly what it is. And so when I was watching it, I was like, I don't know what he's mad about this black elf. He's hot. I wouldn't kick him out of bed.
Okay, well, as soon as I finish Better Call Saul, which I'm almost a little over halfway through, I'll catch up. You guys have more free time than me, I feel like. I'm always behind.
Yeah, lately. You've been working a lot. I've been working a lot, too. Not next week, though. I'm going to, I've decided I'm going to do, and I'll just go ahead and put it under cool shit. I've decided to rewatch the first season of American Horror Story.
Oh, good. That'll give me time to catch up on everything I'm behind on.
Me and my client were talking about, she was telling me things that happened in the first season. I was like, I don't remember that. I was like, if it's been so long I can't remember what happened, that means it's time to go rewatch it. And then I was talking about how much I didn't like the second season, because as much as I fucking love with all of my gigantic heart on Zachary Quinto.
Oh yeah.
I really didn't care for the second season, because they were kind of touched on gay conversion therapy, which that's a thing that happened. It's really shitty, but I felt like they were kind of they were using it like for shock value, and I didn't appreciate it, right? So as I told my client, I was like, well, you know what? I think I'm going to go ahead and watch the second season again as well, and maybe I won't have a gigantic stick up my ass this time, and maybe I can appreciate it more, because people love Asylum, which was the second season, and I just couldn't get past that part. I'm like, fuck this shit.
Have I told you about the time that Zachary Quinto came into my store in Honolulu and I followed him around, and he was so dreamy?
Now that you mentioned it, yes, I do remember, because you said, and if it's at all possible, his boyfriend is even cuter than he is.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, what
I
a
used to
power
follow
couple.
I started following his boyfriend on Twitter, and I can't remember his name. Well, it was his boyfriend at the time. Who knows, who's dating who or whatever.
Right.
But yeah, they were a very, very handsome couple, I'll tell you that.
Lovely.
Many boys and girls were fainting all over the aisles when those two walked in.
I just love you so much.
Yeah, good times. I would like to talk about, for cool shit, our Omega Mart spending spree of the century.
Jesus Christ. My credit card is mad at me. I'm not, okay, listen, I always made a rule that when I go to Vegas, I can either drink or I can gamble, but I can't really do both. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm going to take advantage of the free drinks, but once I feel like I'm drunk, gambling is off the table, right? Because I love money so much that I'm devastated when I lose it, and I will try to get it back by spending more money, like they want you to do, right? Mm-hmm. Same goes for Vegas and spending money. If I'm drunk, take my credit card away from me, because Jesus Christ, I bought a lot of really cool shit.
Well, we've told you guys about Omega Mart. We dedicated a whole story to Omega Mart in an episode past. If you haven't seen it, it's this amazing art installation. It's at this place called Area 15, which is like, I thought it was always a play on Area 51, but I'd heard there was like another, I don't know. Anyways, Google it if you're interested. It's a really cool place. It reminds me of basically like all the shit that we tried to create in the 90s when we were kids, because we were taking so much acid back then. It's like if a place like this existed when I was a kid, oh my God, it would be just like an absolute hallucinogenic paradise.
Right.
Everything's black light, neon. I mean, it's just like...
Things are melting together. They don't really make quite
so
sense.
cool.
It's so good. And actually, I tried to get some mushrooms. I'm like, I want to do mushrooms beforehand. I'm really glad we didn't for two reasons. One... Well, no, I'm not against mushrooms. But mainly, when we went to go one of the days, we had dinner reservations. We weren't going to make it. So I would have been high as shit on mushrooms, and we wouldn't have even been able to go in the first day. Because we were supposed to go on Saturday. But we left the house so late that when we got there, they're like, oh, well, you have to, 5 o'clock is when you have to come back to be able to get inside of the art installation.
It was busy, basically.
It was very busy. But we had dinner reservations at 7. So, like, meanwhile, the guys who got super stoned were like, oh, okay. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so glad I didn't take mushrooms, or I'd be really high right now and then not even appreciating it because we can't go.
That's true. So anyway, there's a lot of cool shops in there. There's actually a whole bar upstairs that we didn't know about, an arcade. And there's a bar inside Omega Mart, which I don't know if that's new or we just never found it before.
I think it's been there before, because now that because I'm envisioning the security guard that's standing there, I think he's always been there. I just assumed he was guarding the exit.
Yeah. So if you go to Omega Mart and you see the pharmacy, yeah, go into it, because it's a fucking bar. And they have these really cool...
Of course it's a pharmacy. I didn't get that connection.
Yeah, they have these really cool drinks. Like, I got this drink in there that was like it's called The Source, which if you're familiar, you'll understand. And it was like it was a very dark purple martini in an oversized martini glass. And then they had this cool, like, machine that pumps out a bubble filled with rosemary smoke. Yeah. And then so you end up with this like beautiful cocktail with this giant bubble on top of the martini glass filled with smoke. And then after about 5 seconds or so, it pops and makes this big dramatic effect. And you're just like, in fact, I should post that. I'll post that on our social media.
Perfect.
It was so cool.
Do you feel like the rosemary smoke affected the taste of the drink at all?
No, not really.
It's more just a cool thing.
Well, they also put that smoke in the cup ahead of time before they put the drink in. So yes, it probably did. Just
did you taste rosemary at all?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay.
In the same way when you smoke a Manhattan glass, like you'll get that flavor of smoke.
Right.
It's that sort of same thing. So it's very subtle, but it's there. I'm gonna just make a note so I can post that. But yeah, it was. Anyways, the point of my, not to get too off track of cool shit, but the point was that we ended up going into a lot of the shops at Area 15 because we didn't go into Omega Mart that day because we were too late and it was busy. And so we ended up going into this place called Wild Muse, which was full of just, so much cool shit. Like, Charlotte got this amazing sequin jacket. This
it's silver, but if you push it like those pillows, they'll go different colors. Yeah. So it's silver and black. It's so fucking cool.
It's so great. I got this hood that's like a fiber optic cloth. So you can connect it with Bluetooth to your phone, and it's very subtle that it's lit up, but you can change the color of it. So I got this thing imagining, because we're going to go to Disney World in January. Right. So I'm imagining this with my Jedi Sith outfit. I'll change it red and then use my red lightsaber and walk around like a goddamn miracle.
You give me the lightsabers to Florida?
Yeah, hell yeah. We're going to
you're
Disney.
It's just good. It's the airport. I don't know.
Anyways, long story short, Charlotte and I were drunk and we spent a shit ton of money on everything we've ever wanted.
Like, $180 seems reasonable to me.
I'll take 20.
What, is this a holster that's a purse? I feel like Han Solo right now. I'm buying it.
Yeah. So anyway, it was so fun. Like we had just a ton of fun at Area 15. My favorite part,
just a little side note, so the next day we did actually get to go to the Omega Mart again, and Mandy went in to go buy the hood because I think she had to think about it, and she's like, okay, I'm gonna go get it. And then so I'm in there wearing my jacket and my holster's underneath my jacket or whatever, and I'm like la da da, and then Mandy's checking out and the lady behind is like, so do you want to buy that jacket then? And I'm like, oh no, I bought this yesterday. And she's like, oh. And it was great. I was like, bitch thought I was a thief.
Well, when I was checking out too, she was whispering that there was like 3 other girls behind the counter, and did she pay for that? Did she pay for that? Did she pay for that?
Right.
Because I was trying on these rings, these like mood rings, and I was like, I wonder if they're talking about me because I didn't pay for this mood ring.
Right.
Like, that's the thought that was going through my head. And then when Charlotte came up to me at the checkout, then the lady was like, did you need to purchase that jacket today? And I was like, oh, they thought she was stealing the jacket.
Right. Like, no, bitch, I already bought this. I wish I would have stolen it because that shit was expensive.
But yeah, it was a super fun time, super cool shit. So if you ever find yourself at Area 15, or if you ever find yourself in Vegas, honestly, it's worth the trip.
Right. And
go
I
check
would say
it out.
this, when Mandy was talking about it originally, before we'd ever gone into it, and it was like $50 to get in. I'm like, $50 to go see an art installation? Like, I could give a fuck. I don't want to, like, I was begrudgingly paying that because I'm like, that's a lot of money, and I think that's stupid. Worth every penny. And so when we came back and now it's $60, I'm like, that's fine. Take my money.
Yeah. They actually charged us as seniors. They were like, is anyone in your party a senior? And I was like, no, bitch. Well, what's a senior?
Technically, yes.
She was like 50 and over, and I was like, oh yeah, technically then we do have a senior. And I was like, and I'm only 2 years away from a senior? She's like, I'll just give it to you. So I got my first senior discount.
I also got a senior discount. She was rad. Don't tell secrets.
Anyway, good times. Good times.
There's a lot for this motherfucker. I feel like it's even so much that I don't even want to start.
I've got one little thing we could talk about. There's a lot.
There's so much that, like, again, I don't even know where to start.
Here, let's start with potential Republican presidential nominee for the presidential candidate, Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida. Should we start with him?
Yeah, that motherfucker.
What a piece of shit.
What a piece of shit.
He's right there with, like...
Well, it's not just him. It's Ted Cruz.
I was just going to say, he's right there with Ted Cruz.
Greg Abbott.
Yep.
Because this was like a Greg Abbott, Ron DeSantis, like, power move, right? They're like, we're going to take these immigrants off the street.
We're going to own the libs.
Right.
By human trafficking.
We'll show them. We're going to lie to these people, tell them that there's housing and jobs waiting for them.
Wait, what people? We got to start from the beginning. Okay.
Well, I don't know actually where they're from. Is it just Mexican people? Or is it like Venezuelan people?
Venezuelan people.
Okay.
Yeah. I want to make sure that I get to say the word Nutbucket. I actually wrote Nutbucket under this motherfucker because I was going to try to, like, say Ron DeSantis and Ted Cruz and Greg Abbott, collectively known as Nutbucket. I don't know why. I read it on the internet and I thought it was great. So Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida, decides that he's going to take all this group of like 60 Venezuelan people, and he's going to perform this like giant political stunt to try to highlight that the immigration system in America is broken. So he tells these people that, hey, get on this plane. We're going to fly you to your new home in wherever. There's going to be a job.
Yeah.
There's going to be a job waiting for you. There's going to be housing waiting for you. These are men, women, and children that get on this plane with the promise of, a place to go and a place to stay and a job to work, to pay for things,
Right.
And so they get on this plane. So this plane flies them to Martha's Vineyard, which is a notoriously wealthy island.
Mansions with like Oprah and Bill Clinton, the Obamas.
Yeah.
Like
very, very wealthy piece of real estate. So they fly them there on a plane. This whole thing is paid for, by the way, with
taxpayer.
No, with COVID relief money. Yes.
That's fucked.
With COVID relief money. DeSantis pays for this, pays for this political PR stunt, drops these people off and was like, how do you like it? Basically, like using human beings as a that obviously mean less to him than dirt.
Right, clearly.
Which is kind of, to be honest, highlights the whole difference between the two political parties, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, you have one person who flew them in to own the Libs, and then you have the people who took them in, fed them, gave them a place to stay, and are actually working. I think they did actually end up having to transfer them somewhere else because
they would have to. What are you going to do?
They don't have the resources to fucking deal with it because they're not set up for that. So they took them to another place that actually is. But like, again, why is the children and like the poor people have to feel? And sorry, I get mad and the words don't like to come out right. But like, Florida is made up of so many immigrants. Mm-hmm. Like. And honestly, from what I've read, they're pissed. They're like, how fucking dare you? And anybody who, Ted Cruz's parents were immigrants, right? Like, how fucking dare you? Because it worked out for you. Well, I got mine, but you can't have yours. Like, go fuck yourself.
Exactly. And I was going to mention, too, that, like, Ted Cruz the only part that Ted Cruz is really playing in it, as far as I can tell, is, like, blasting it and supporting it.
Right.
And he's tweeting shit like, for example, he put this tweet out that I retweeted on ours that said basically like, oh, that didn't take long for them basically to ship these people out to somewhere else.
Right.
That what do you do when 60 human beings land on your doorstep unannounced?
Right.
Like, you do what you can do, and then you figure out what to do with them, which is what these people did.
Right. They all rallied together and fucking helped them.
They had all these volunteers come out, high school kids come out.
To the point where also people like, what can I do to help? Like, actually, we've got it taken care of. Thank you. Like, they had so many people who want to help them.
Yeah.
And then he also fucking tweeted, do Nantucket next.
Yeah.
Like, go fuck yourself, Ted Cruz. Like, he's like, oh God, how do I describe it? He's the guy in high school who just wanted to be the popular kid so badly.
That's why I wrote down Nutbucket. I was trying to Google. I was like, what do you call stupid rich jocks? And then Nutbucket popped up.
But like the one who just was so socially awkward that he couldn't be popular because like he would tell the wrong jokes. Like he'd say something offensive thinking he'd get a laugh, but everybody's like, go fuck yourself kind of thing. Like he's a person who's just so socially awkward but trying so hard to be cool. Like you see that video of him in college, again wearing the high-waisted like acid wash jeans, just saying, I'm gonna like dominate the world. And it's like, fuck, you're lame. Like you are just never gonna be a cool dude as much as you try.
The high-waisted acid wash jeans were actually cool though. I'm not saying that because I wore them myself.
I'm saying on him they were never going to be cool. He could buy all the right things. He could go to the right schools. He was just never gonna be cool because he's an awful person deep down inside. If he was a decent person, like. And again, there could be socially awkward people who are awesome people. I don't mean to say it like that either. Like, I don't want to get it twisted. But, like, because a lot of times, like, oh, that guy's just so rad. Even if he was just a little socially awkward, it doesn't matter. That's just who they are. But when you're a fucking piece of shit and you have all these things against you, you can't buy your way out of that. I don't care how much money you have because you have no class. You have no likability. Yeah. Right?
I would also like to mention that taking people from one place who are undocumented and transporting them across state lines to another place, knowing that they're undocumented, is actually the exact motherfucking definition of human trafficking.
100%.
And if some shit doesn't come out of this, penalizing at least.
I think actually our governor have put in a, I don't know if it's an ethics thing, but he did something to the point where he's like, well, this needs to be looked into because it's human trafficking.
Yeah, it's exactly human trafficking. Right. That's exactly what human trafficking is. Human trafficking, different than sex trafficking, which is what Matt Gaetz did with those underage girls.
Right, correct.
I just want to clarify, those two things are different. Human trafficking is Ron DeSantis, Greg Abbott, and Ted Cruz. Sex trafficking is Matt Gaetz. Just so we're clear.
Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump.
And possibly Bill Clinton, it looks like.
You know what? And here's the difference between fucking Republicans and Democrats. We will at least admit that maybe some people that are Democratic leaning or Democrats, if you did a fucking bad thing, I'm going to call you out for it. And
to be perfectly honest, I don't give a shit about Republicans or Democrats.
Me neither. But I'm just saying, you sit there and you look at all of these fucking Republicans who's like, well, so what if Trump took classified documents? Like, he took fucking classified documents. This isn't so what if he did? At least he's not Obama.
It's, are you a bad person or a good person?
Right.
That's the only
thing
I care about.
Literally. And that's how it used to be. Republican versus Democrat used to be, were you fiscally responsible or did you want to fund government programs?
Yeah, what do you do with the money?
That was it. Like, what are we doing with the money? It wasn't your core beliefs, and like, shit has gotten so fucking twisted.
Yeah, there's been a lot of comparisons to the rise of the Third Reich in Germany, which is bananas to me, but it's
happening.
Eerily similar, and like, I can't believe that people
Trump
don't
just
see
had that Ohio rally yesterday, and people were there just pointing their finger like, it's like, are they pointing at him, calling him a racist? That would be nice. But no, they're kind of doing a Sing Heil bullshit thing.
Yeah, it's a new salute. It's instead of the whole hand, it's one finger.
Right. But same fucking difference.
Yeah, people are sheep, I guess, and
the thing,
we've
talked about it before, it's like people want to feel included. They want to feel like they're smart and they know more than other people. This is not the fucking way.
No. This is not the fucking way. All right, listen. We're getting short on time, getting long on conversation. Let's hear a word from our sponsors, and we'll be right back.
Good, I need more Baileys.
Oh no, we're out of Baileys.
I didn't have time to refill.
Welcome back to the show.
Hey there.
You came back. You stuck around.
You ready for some fucking story time?
I'm ready.
I don't remember.
The end. Goodbye.
So
I'll tell you what I do remember. Or did you want to start?
This is a picture it.
Okay, go.
2 weeks ago, Las Vegas, Nevada. Me and Mandy decided to go hang out with our friend Ani for her birthday at the Cosmopolitan. It's hot as fucking balls outside.
Major heat wave.
So we drove. We had to stop in Baker for gas and some food, and the credit card machine wasn't working on the gas pump. So I had to go walk up to pay for gas. And I have a purse on that's got a metal chain. The time it took me to walk from the gas pump to go pay for the gas, I was burning myself with that metal fucking strap, thank you. 116 degrees, something like that. Which is funny because it was 122 for your birthday in Palm Springs, but this felt way hotter. This was awful. Like, we actually stayed at the Cosmopolitan, as we do. We would not walk the 3 minutes to the Bellagio. We took a cab. It was that fucking hot.
The Bellagio is literally right next door to the Cosmopolitan.
So close.
The cab drivers were so pissed.
Listen,
we tipped them.
It was Ani's birthday, and she deserves to be a queen. Mm-hmm. Well, every day, but especially on her birthday.
That's right.
Right? So that was fucking amazing. Where do you want to go with this? Because now that I think about it, there's so many stories from this week.
Well, I would like to highlight, since we have a few Vegas stories, we've told you some things. I had a new Vegas experience, which was a very fancy dinner at the Eiffel Tower restaurant at Paris.
So good.
I had never done that before, and that was amazing. Like, obviously the food was magnificent, spectacular. Right. Everything was amazing. We got to talk to a sommelier who told us everything we were saying wrong about describing the wine we like to drink.
I have some words about that man, but
it's okay. So we had we had lovely dinner, lovely conversation with a sommelier, which is fun. And then, but really, like, the presentation it just elevates, like, the little details that elevate the meal so much. Like, we had the way our server, who, I don't know how to explain it. He's like the head server, but then he has all these other people who are actually doing the serving. Like, he just liaisons the table. Right. He takes the orders. He discusses the menu.
So you have your expediters.
The expediters.
You have your sommeliers. You have your these are all like common things. I bet they have better names for them for this because it was so fancy. But you've got your busboys who take away the plates.
Yeah, I didn't want to say that because it wasn't like it was.
But it's not. That makes it sound common. Like, this was like, you're in a tuxedo taking my plate away. So you're not just a busboy.
Yeah, I'm not even talking about taking the plates. I'm talking about, like, the service of the meal. Like, there are 6 of us at the table, so all 6 of us are served at essentially the exact same time.
Right.
The guy will come, with the brush and, like, brush the crumbs off the tablecloth, and, like, it was next level amazing.
We'll have to go back.
Yeah, it was an amazing, amazing meal, and I highly, highly recommend that place. It was top notch.
So here's the thing about that sommelier. for those who have been listening to the podcast knows how much we love the show Party Down. So good. If you haven't watched it, just skip right to season 2 and watch Steve Guttenberg's birthday. But in it is pretty much all of the people who work for this catering business hang out with Steve Guttenberg and get to like eat the food that he had ordered and then drink wine. And they're like, this tastes like rocks and sticks. And I'm like, that's exactly the kind of wine I like. The ones that taste like rocks and sticks. So I thought it would be very funny to tell our sommelier that I want something that tastes like dirt. Rocks and sticks. And he just looked at me with such disgust. And he was just like, we don't serve wine like that here. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I was like, you don't have earthy wine? I highly doubt that. And he's just like, wine that tastes like manure. And I'm like, no, that's not what I said, but sure.
That's not exactly how it went down.
I was drunk. I don't really remember. But
anyway, he educated us. He did.
He's like, oh, no, a double burned barrel will give it a fruit forward. I'm like, fuck, I don't like fruity wine.
But we didn't know that there were actually wines that tasted like, that's what he mentioned to us. He's like, oh yeah, there's actually people who, Europeans who like wine that has like a hint of manure and like a very strong grassy taste. So when you describe a wine like that, people could mistake that that's what you're talking about. So we got a little education on wine.
It really wasn't.
The meal was amazing. Yeah,
I just thought it was funny. The meal was like manure wine.
Yeah, the meal was very good, and the wine knowledge was amazing, and the whole thing was fucking great.
It was great.
So, if you have the chance and the money to check that out, do it.
Yeah, do it.
It was very cool.
And then we went to Motley Crue.
Yeah, we left our luxurious, high-end, elegant dinner, and then we went straight into the pits of drunken debauchery with Tommy Lee,
Vince Neil, who was half a beat off at every song,
Mickey Sixx, and Mick Mars, who continues to hold the whole band together like a glue stick.
So yeah, we went to the Cosmopolitan. We stayed there for 3 nights, and then we got an Airbnb for 4 nights, and that's when our friends came to from Washington. We all met up. We went to go see Def Leppard, Motley Crue, Poison, and Joan Jett. And it was pretty rad.
It was especially cool because we got to see the Vegas show was the very last show of the tour. Right. So everybody came out at the end of their sets and kind of did a bow like, you would do for the theater. And there was just this whole vibe of like, we did this thing that was so awesome that had been scheduled before COVID, and we're finally able to do it. And yeah, it was just an amazing show.
Great. And the people that were there were great because you had like 80s genres across the board. You had like the leather tight pants where you just see tight ass with like, crop tops or whatever. But then you see like the biker chicks with the ratted up blonde, like fried hair, and like, I love that I could see all sorts of different people from the 80s because it really, Joan Jett, and like, she's a certain kind of 80s chick. And then Def Leppard is a different kind of 80s band. Poison and Motley Crue are closer, but Motley Crue's just a fucking shit show. So it was all sorts of wonderful. Me and Mandy actually had seen Def Leppard before in Washington. A friend had won tickets and gave them to us, and that was a really good show. But really, I would say out of the 4 of them, Def Leppard's the best. Like, they're tight as shit. Like, their music, their sound was amazing.
Their presence, their performance.
Was great. Yeah, everything was awesome. And Motley Crue really, as drunk as they were, did a really great job, too. Now, as drunk as I was.
Is that the part where your hematoma comes into play?
Yes. So, we pre-funk beforehand. We're drinking. And we get to our seats. We're smack dab in the middle of an aisle, which sucks, but whatever. And then, Joan Jett comes out. We're drinking, having a good time. She stops. We go get more drinks. We go to the bathroom. Now we come back. Poison's playing. I'm like, I can make it. I can make it through Poison. I don't have to go pee yet. Like, because when the seal is broken, the seal's fucking broken, right? And I'm like, no, it'll be all right. So Poison ends. Quick, go pee. Go grab another drink. Now it's Def Leppard, and I cannot stop peeing.
Let's mention these drinks. When we grab a drink, we're grabbing a 78-ounce can of White Claw.
Right.
Or bigger than your head, and it costs $400.
She's not wrong. It's very. I think they're $27, and it's a 24 ounce.
It's huge.
Maybe. It's huge. Yeah. So again, we're drinking quite a bit, but I'm feeling pretty bad about having to because everybody has to stand up as you exit the row, and it became obvious to me later that everybody was there to see Def Leppard because, so I get up, I have to go pee a few times through Def Leppard. Not terrible, but again, I feel kind of bad about it. Now Motley Crue is starting. There's not as many people around. So as I have to continue to keep going to the bathroom, I now don't have to have the people in our row, because our row was still very full, but the row behind us was pretty empty. Those people bailed. And so I was like, okay, no big deal. I'll just crawl behind my seat and walk out that way. And again, the more drunk I get, the more I'm having to go to the bathroom. So I went quite a few times. Well, I watched Craig, because Craig was doing the same thing. And Craig's much taller than I am. I'm about 5'5". Would you say Craig is about 6'2"-ish?
I'd say 6.
6-ish? Okay. And, I mean, the man's got long legs. So he could just walk, instead of me crawling over the chair, he could just actually put his whole leg over the seats.
Like a step.
Yeah, so it was like from concrete to concrete. Me, I had to step on the seat first to get down. And when I was more sober, I was aware of that. So when I came back, and I was super excited, like Motley Crue was playing a song I love, so I just wanted to get back to the seat really fast. I couldn't take the time to put the seat down to step on it, so I tried pulling a Craig. Only I'm not that long. I don't have long legs. I'm not that tall. And I just feel my leg, the back of my knee up to my thigh, just scraping along the seat, like, I don't know what you, like, the seat was upright, so it was like my leg was going over the upright thing, but just scraping it. Skin wasn't broken at all. There was no cuts, there was no blood. I didn't have to deal with that. And I kind of, the people kind of looked at me like, oh, fuck, is she okay? Like, cause, like, I didn't fall or anything. Like, maybe nobody noticed, but I knew the pain that I had just felt. And I was like, I'm cool. Nobody look at me. I'm fine. I'm fine. So I walk back to the seat. I put the seat down, and I go over it properly. And, everything's fine. We go about the day as usual. Next morning, we wake up. There's just this massive hematoma on the back of my leg. It is so purple.
It's black.
It's black.
And it's huge.
And actually, I never thought about bruises like that. But I asked Amanda, like, what would happen if you tattooed over my bruise? Like, you just bleed everywhere. And I was like, oh, yeah, I guess that would be how that would work. So we're over a week and a half into it. That shit is still gnarly. I'll take a picture of it. But now it's like orange and like brown and like it's just I showed my client actually yesterday. I was like, hey, you want to see something gross? And I was wearing a skirt and I pulled my back. She's like, that is what did you do? And I was like, I was drunk, so it didn't hurt that bad when it happened. She's like, were there like lumps in it? Like, was it a proper hematoma? I'm like, maybe, I don't know.
I don't go to doctors.
I'm not. What are they gonna do? You got a bruise. Put some Amica on it. Which I actually tried to put some arnica on it, but I only did it one time, so I don't think it really did anything.
If you're talking about one-time things, all it takes is one time for you to go to our Apple Podcasts and just leave us a review. Just one review. That's all we're asking.
You can go on to our YouTube and like and subscribe and share with some of your friends maybe. I mean it'd be so nice.
That was terrible.
I like it.
Let's just keep going with it. Also, don't forget to be excellent to each other, and don't forget to never use human beings as a political stunt.
Always use the seat of the chair, no matter how tall you are.
Get your official merch. Go to our Linktree, which is on all of our social medias.
You have a story you want to tell us? Do you know the answers to some of the questions? Skunk oil. Tell me how you get it. FHEBadMormons@gmail.com. Go ahead and write us.
Also, we would love it if you would consider becoming a patron. It'll cost you $3 a month, less than a cup of coffee, and you'll have way more fun than sending your money to corporate Mormon headquarters.
And we'll keep promising to give you things.
And one day we're actually going to do it. And lastly, check out our YouTube. We're always looking for likes, subscribes, and shares. So if you could make that happen for us, we would be eternally grateful. And so would our Heavenly Father.
Namaste, bitch.